I was in Africa, and I was witnessing an exodus of roaches. Dirty, huge roaches. They were the size of matchbox cars. At first, there were just a few hanging around the hole when someone had the bright idea to drop one of those bug bombs down the hole. Thousands upon thousands of roaches poured out. They were everywhere. It took days to get rid of them. But you know what was worse than an exodus of roaches? How I was feeling at that time in my life. I was working a dead-end job in Washington, D.C. I was divorced, and I was raising a teenager. And I would say to my sweet 14-year-old son, "You won't believe what happened at work today." I was stuck, and I was searching for something, but I didn't know what that was. So one day, during that difficult time, I was at work, and my friend Domi came breezing past me. And she said to me, "I had the most amazing trip with my daughter. We volunteered to build a house for a family in need in Jordan." She was glowing. I didn't know that was a thing, that you could volunteer internationally to build a home, but I wanted that feeling. I wanted to breeze into work glowing. So I went online that day and I researched trips for volunteering. And I found 2 trips that fit into my vacation schedule: Guatemala and Zambia. In August, Guatemala is hot, but Zambia is not. So I paid the fee and I signed up that day. But I also had to be interviewed by Trisha, the team leader. In this village, there's no running water and no electricity. We rinse off with well water using a solar shower. Do you know what a solar shower is? Well, go online and order one. And while you're at it, get a flashlight, because you're going to need it when you use the latrine out back at night, in the dark, outside. This is a tough trip for a beginner. I was just looking for a purpose, and maybe this was it. So I was on my way to Zambia. When our team arrived in the red dirt village, it was nighttime, and it was dark. And the van surrounded our villagers, and we were a little nervous, and then they broke into a welcome song, and they started cheering for us. And we were just ordinary volunteers, but we felt like celebrities. The very next day, we started building a house for Amelia, a grandmother. In Amelia's current house, it was made from ramshackle mud bricks. The door was an old piece of cloth. The floor was dirt, and there were no windows in the house. The air was stale, and it was dark all the time. Amelia was the caregiver for the entire family, for the daughters-in-law and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, because she had lost most of her sons to AIDS. When you work on these volunteer builds, you work alongside the villagers and the local masons and a volunteer team of strangers. But do you need to know how to lay bricks? No, because someone will teach you everything you need to know in a 30-second hands-on lesson. Do you need to know how to pour concrete? Nope. All you need is a good attitude and a desire to help. For Amelia, we finished her house in just 1 week. There were glass windows letting in the brilliant African sun. That filthy dirt floor was now concrete. And the shiny new wooden door was perfect, except it was this much too long. So one of the masons sawed off the bottom. When you finish a house, there's a dedication ceremony and a key is presented to the new owner. And in Zambia, the entire village shows up to the party. There were African drums thumping out a beat, do-do-do-do. And the villagers were dancing and singing and swaying to the music. And, well, me, I was right there dancing and singing along. After the dedication ceremony, the team was walking back, and one of the villagers motioned for me to come with her. So we walked over to where the newer homes were, and she stopped in front of one of the houses, and she said to me in broken English, "A year ago, this house was built for me. I now run a business selling fruits and vegetables to the villagers. This house changed my life." When I got back to my home, with its wooden floors and its electricity and running water, I couldn't stop thinking about Zambia. And Tricia had warned me that it might be difficult to adjust back to my normal life. And it was. Some things that had seemed important before no longer were. Like complaining about that dead-end job. So I researched and discovered that I wanted to put that energy into ways that I could serve. And I found out that 1.6 billion people go to sleep each night in conditions that most of us could not imagine. Walls that don't keep out the cold, a roof that offers little protection, and dirt floors that lead to diseases and infections. For these people, home is not a place of security, but it's just ordinary volunteers armed with basic tools and a willingness to help. We can transform a family's life in just 1 week. In just 1 week. What I got from the experience of volunteering is that volunteering is about connection. It's about a group of strangers thrown together for a common cause. And when you're working alongside these strangers, you don't worry about their politics, because these strangers become your family, your build family. And a bond is cemented. When I was working that old job, I only had 2 weeks off during the summer. But I would use that precious vacation time to go on these builds. And eventually, I changed my priorities. I quit that dead-end job. I left the United States, and I moved to Mexico. And I now co-run a platform helping women make positive changes in their lives. And my son, Ben, he loves seeing the changes that his mom had made. And when he turned 18, he came with me to Paraguay. I love doing these volunteer build trips because when you present a home to a family, you're not just providing them with walls and a roof. By pouring concrete and laying bricks and digging a foundation, you become an ambassador for good. You change the future of that family. In Nicaragua, we built a house for a mother and her adult son who was physically impaired. And in the photo, you can see the new house we're building, and behind it is their old house. In the old house, when it rained, it would leak onto the mother's bed. But they worked happily alongside us in their new house, knowing that it wouldn't leak. In Cambodia, we built 2 houses, one for a Christian family and one for a Buddhist family. In their old bamboo houses, they used candles for light, and they were constantly worried about a burning candle in a bamboo house. But we gave them newer, safer homes with solar power. And remember my friend Domi, the one who told me about builds? That's her daughter, Franny, working alongside me in Mexico, where we built a family house with 2 teenage boys. And last year, instead of participating, I led a team to Peru. And that's my beautiful friend Gail laying bricks on her first build. And working alongside Gail is my son Ben, now 25, on his 4th build. You see, we don't just build houses, we build communities. We build legacies, and any generation can be a provider of hope. That's why I talk about these builds so much. But when I tell people about them, they thank me, which is kind of gross. I am not a saint. I do this service because it makes me feel good. Because for me, volunteering is a self-serving act. And there is a science behind it involving dopamine and serotonin. Those are the happiness hormones. This is a different kind of trip, though, because there's something so enthralling about going to a remote place where you're working alongside the locals and you're sharing meals and you're playing with their children. You meet the country like it's a new friend. And it's not just me that feels this way. When I was in Nepal, I was working with a team of experienced volunteers, but we had one newbie on the team, and the entire time, her eyes were like saucers. She got that hit of dopamine. That's happiness. We all have that inside of us. By volunteering and by giving to others, we create a kinder, more compassionate world. So when you go online, I encourage you, research volunteer opportunities. Find a place where you can serve and look at your calendar and block off 1 week. Because that's all it takes. Go big or go small, but do something. Because 1 week out of your life can change the future of a family. And when we change their futures, we change our futures. When we offer a family hope, we're offering that hope to ourselves. When we build a house, we make a home. And when we serve others, we serve ourselves in the best possible way